Okay, friends, part C. These are percentage problems, it looks like. We have to find 40% of 75. And we have to find 45% of 10. Now, I think you have to be able to do these manually without using a calculator. I believe is what Marilyn told me. Let me look back on the exam and see if that's correct. It doesn't say, but I think that's the point. Because, I mean, if you can use a calculator, you can simply ask your phone what these are and it'll tell you. So I'm going to give you the procedure for finding these without a calculator, by hand, so to speak. And they're not too terrible. Oh my goodness. That's just 75, not 75%. My brain was getting too fast there. Okay, 40% of 75. Number of ways to do this one, but I always fall back on the way I learned when I was very young, before we were carrying around pocket calculators all the time. 40%, and you remember what 40% means? It means 40 over 100. 40 over 100. That's literally what it means. 40%. And when you're finding the percent of a number, you're going to multiply that by that number. Now, if you're looking at this number, and you're seeing that it's a fraction, 40%, that number doesn't look like a fraction, but any number can be written as a fraction over 1. So 40% of 75 is the same as 40 over 100 times 75. And since this fraction is less than 1, that's going to make this number smaller at the end. Now, before we start multiplying 40 times 75, which I don't want to do that personally, I don't want to do that if that's okay with you all. An easier way to kind of go about it is to check diagonals for common factors. For example, 75 and 100 both have a common factor of 25. 100 is 25 times 4, and 75 is 25 times 3. So you can divide off 75 and replace it with a 3, and you can divide off 100 and replace it with a 4. And this quantity is still going to have the same value, because if you were to multiply straight across, those numbers would have showed up anyway. Now, I'm going to rewrite it actually instead of just seeing that crossed off. Now you've got 40 over 4 times 3 over 1. At this point, you might realize that, oh goodness, 40 divided by 4, I know what that is. That's 10. Times 3 is 30. So 40% of 75 is just 30. So again, this is the absolute simplest way I've found to knock out percentage problems. I'm assuming you're doing these without a calculator, because this is probably the most direct, easy way to do it. Okay. We'll do it the exact same way over here. 45% of 10. 45% is 45 over 100 times 10, which is 10 over 1. And then we can just look for diagonal common factors. 10 and 100 have a common factor of 10. 1, 10. And then I'm going to rewrite these. This is 45 over 10. And this is just 1. 1 over 1 is just 1. So it's 45 divided by 10. That is a correct answer, 45 tenths. It's totally fine, actually. I doubt very much Marilyn wants you to have that answer, or Shannon wants you to have that answer, so they're probably going to want you to divide 45 by 10. And because you're an American math student, you're not as comfortable as, say, a European math student would be. Well, they'd look at something like this and go, oh, it's you're dividing by 10, so it's a simple matter of moving the decimal. Because we use the metric system in Europe, unlike you Americans. When you divide by 10 or 100 or 1,000, or if you multiply by 10 or 100 or 1,000, it's really as simple as moving the decimal point around. Right now, 45 divided by 10, 45, the decimal point is over here. Dividing by 10 will move it in 1, and you'll get 4.5. 4.5. how to explain that without using a calculator and without using the funny British accent. We're going to go old school here. And I looked ahead a little bit, cheated, and looked at some remainder problems Marilyn and Shannon had you do it. 45 divided by 10, we're going to go algorithmically. That means you're taking 10 and putting it into 45. This is old school. I'm assuming some of you are still doing it this way. I mean, I don't know what the limitations on technology you have are. So 10 goes into 45. Okay, the first thing you do is you say, okay, how many times can I multiply 10 to get close to 45 but not over? And that's 4. 10 times 4 is 40. Subtract. You're left with a 5. Now, at this point, you're out of digits up here, right? You're out of digits. So you can add the decimal and bring a 0 down. And now it's 50. How many times does 10 go into 50? 5 additional times. And now you're at 0 with no remainder. 4.5. So you could think of it moving a decimal way, dividing by 10. You could think of it old school algorithmically. You could always reach out to me if you're interested and ask me for other ways to think about arithmetic like that. It's tricky because so much of this is stuff that I don't think about doing anymore. I just do it. So I want to make sure that you see a couple different ways to do it anyway with the solution videos here.